Mastication means chewing, and all three of these mastication muscles need to be released in order to relieve a headache or relieve TMJ. The temporalis is the largest of all the mastication muscles. By originating at its large origin at the temporal fossa and forming into a tendon where it passes under the zygomatic arch and attaches to the coronoid process of the mandible bone, as you can see in that picture back there, it gives it the strength it needs to really bite down hard. So it flexes the jaw when it contracts. In order to stretch it, you have to stretch that tendon back down under the zygomatic arch by pressing into its tendon and trying to slide it under the cheekbone towards its insertion. When you release this muscle, you can relieve tension in the temple and also in the jaw, and it helps to relieve TMD, and it also takes pressure off the sphenoid bone, which we'll go into later when we talk about the lateral pterygoid muscle. Now let's talk about the masseter muscle. The masseter muscle comes from the zygomatic bone itself, but unlike the temporalis muscle, where I'm pressing now and the tendon goes under the zygomatic bone, the masseter muscle, where I'm pressing now, comes from the zygomatic bone itself on the outside. It slides down and attaches to the mandible. So what it does is it actually elevates the mandible a little bit more than flexing it. But let me go ahead and show you how I stretch the mandible open. You have to be careful, press straight on the teeth. I should be using rubber gloves. I'd recommend actually using rubber gloves if you do this technique, but stretch the mandible open with the one thumb, and then use your fingers on the outside of the mandible, the masseter muscle, to press in while you're stretching at the same time, and try to trigger a release. So you hold, slowly increasing your pressure for maybe about a minute. You really have to take it seriously and press right into the knot right in the middle of the muscle. Hold it, slowly increase your pressure until you feel like it might start to melt, and then start backing your pressure out and make it feel like you have a lot of pressure, but slowly back your pressure out for about 2 minutes. There you go. All right, now you want to do the other side too. Definitely don't want to just do one side, or it could cause all kinds of TMJ and potentially a headache or irregular wear on the teeth. So let's do the other side. This is really similar to the technique that we're going to use for the medial pterygoid muscle, which is on the inside, following the same line of the jaw. But on this one, you're using your middle finger and pressing as hard as you can, very firmly into the knot right in the middle of the muscle. Hold that stretch, slowly increase your pressure until you feel like it might melt, and then start backing your pressure out along the same line, very slowly, up to about 2 minutes even, until you feel like it's starting to release and it lets go. Looks like we've evened it out. So, next let's show you the medial pterygoid muscle. The medial pterygoid follows the same line along the jaw as the masseter muscle, but it sits on the inside of the masseter, and on the inside of the mandible bone, along what's called the ramus of the mandible. And so to stretch it, you want to stretch the jaw open because it closes the jaw, just like the masseter does. And that engages the stretch. So you do that with your thumb of one hand, maybe use a rubber glove. With the other hand, you press into the medial pterygoid muscle, finding the fibers along the front side of the muscle, and reaching in, hooking your fingers in, and trying to press into it from the anterior aspect of the muscle. So you hold the pressure point, slowly increase your pressure while you're holding the stretch, and wait for a release. After a minute, you'll feel like it could relax, and you start drawing your finger back, releasing the pressure, and you get a release. So just like the masseter muscle is to the other side.